Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have another writing tips video for you and we are discussing story structure. This is the writing tips video on story structure, which is the overall structure of your story, so the overall plot structure. We will then do a series where we break down the plot structure, chapter structure, sentence structure, and work our way to smaller and smaller sections of the story. But this is part one. I have already done a video on story structure. I'll put a link above me now if you haven't seen that. It's from my very early YouTube days. But to summarize in that story structure video, we went through the first standard method of story plot, which I will very quickly outline for you in this video. Before we get into that, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continuous support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. So a recap of the standard story method, and that is prologue, incite and incident, first plot point, pinch point, midpoint, pinch point, second plot point, climax, climactic moment, and resolution. That is the standard method. If you want those in more detail, as I said before, you can look at the video linked above and below this video, where I go into each individual section and also roughly how long each section should be percentage-wise in your book. But today, we are going to focus on the three-plot structure. Now, the three-plot structure is a look into the future, or the hook, followed by in we go, and then the center. Now, within these sections, there are multitudes of little sections, and you will find a lot of them are very similar to the standard method. There's just a few more of them. So let's begin with Act 1, Step 1, a look into the future. So you open your book with what your reader can expect from the rest of the book. So if you are writing a murder mystery, you probably want to start with a murder. If your book is going to be bloody and gory, you might want to put a little bit of blood in there so the reader knows what to expect. We all know as readers that when you're in the bookshop, you read the blurb, but then you quite often also, you read part of the first chapter or the prologue. So that is the first section. Now it's up to you if you want that to be a prologue or chapter 1. If you're not new to my channel, you'll know how I personally feel about prologues. I think it should be able to be put into the story. I don't particularly like them, but they're commonly used, so I must be alone in my opinions here. Followed by Step 2, normal life. Now this should be quite a short section, but in order for your reader to see the character development, they need to see a little snippet of their normal life. Now this doesn't need to be much. You don't want to have a full day at work, anything like that. You just want to know where they live, what it's like, what's their main issues. So are they rich? Are they poor? Do they have many friends? Are they a loner? Things like that. Why are they in need of something? Which brings us to Step 3, desire. We've seen their normal day, so what is it that they desire? What is their normal life lacking? Now that is the main question, and that is going to be the first plot point basically in your book. What are they aiming for? This is followed by Step 4, the dilemma. So they have a desire and you're wondering, why haven't they got it yet? Bring in the dilemma. Why haven't they got that artifact that they need to get to the ancient treasure? Because it's locked up. Why haven't they found the culprit for the murder? Because there's no evidence. Why? Why is the desire not already within their grasp? And finally, for Act 1 is Part 5, which is the protagonist takes action. So you know their desire, you know their everyday life. Now they're going to take action. They're going to make a plan. They're going to do something about it. This is literally the start of the story. This is when the story feels like it's going somewhere, because your protagonist has made a decision. So you don't want them to be dragged along for too long. You really need to get them going so the audience can connect to them and go, right, we're getting that. Then this takes us to Act 2, which is Step 6, in over their head. It can't be easy to get this desire. They're gonna have to fail. And the failing starts here, which brings us to Step 7, the blunder. They need to fail. So it not only needs to be difficult, they're gonna have to fail at something. Something has to not go right for them. It builds empathy for the protagonist. It connects the reader with the protagonist, because not everything goes right in the world and not everything's gonna go right for your character. Number 8, learn. So they failed. What have they learned from that? Your character has to show an arc. They have to develop. They have to grow. Whether this is the very trope-like situation of learning to fight, that's in a lot of stories. Or they need to learn another language. Or they need to change how, in a romance rom-com, they change their appearance. Something's got to change. Number 9, the first win. They've made these changes, now give them some benefit. Reap some reward, not the reward, but some of it. Which then brings us to step 10, which is perspective shift. So your protagonist has had a win. Their arc has developed. They have changed, and with them the reader has changed. You've seen this character grow. Your perspective of them has changed. You can see them doing things that you wouldn't have thought possible at the beginning of the book. It's development. Now, development is something that a lot of books can lack. Don't lack it. That's the whole point of these structures, is to develop. Which takes us to Act 3, the center. So step 11, I'm not going to do fingers anymore, we're going to get confused. The situation gets worse. So the stakes have to rise. Your protagonist has had a win. That's great. But who are they winning against? Because it's not great for them. And they're going to take revenge on that. They're going to up the ante. Something's got to change, and it's got to change for the worse. Step 12, the struggle. The protagonist now has to really struggle. They've learned, they've improved, but is it enough? Step 13, a severe loss. This is like the tipping point for your character. It is the second pinch point in your novel. This is where best friend dies. They lose the item that they need, and their entire personality has been shut down. There has to be a big loss here. We then have step 14, the breaking point. They've had a severe loss. They must now break. They are broken. You can't have a character have something severe happen to them and just go la-di-la-di-la. That's not life, and we no longer believe in those characters, all right? Number 16, redemption. Right, it's like Mulan. Get that sword, get that armor, let's get to it and defeat the Huns. You've been defeated, you've been let go, you've been belittled. Screw that, you're getting on with it. Step 17, almost. Your protagonist almost makes it, but success cannot come easy. They must be near. Step 18, the climax. This needs little to no introduction. It's the high point of the novel. It is that last fight scene. It is that last bid for freedom, that last bit of dialogue to get the love interest to love you back. Step 19, the fallout. You've had the climax, so now there's questions. You need to start wrapping this story up. You've got to ask the questions, and they got to start getting answered. And finally, step 20, the resolution. This is the end of your novel. So they've achieved their desire, how most books would go. You might not have, you might have made them fail. If you're a series, you want to answer up a lot of the questions, but definitely leave something big, a nice little inkling of what's in the next book. If this is a standalone, you've got to answer those questions. What I would recommend is answer those questions, but make sure your character's life could continue after the book. Recently, I've noticed with a lot of books that I really like, I've liked them because the characters don't die in my head. When the story's finished, they're still going somehow. And even though everything's resolved, it's because you could see those characters continuing on. They've got more to give. And that, in essence, is the 3-plot structure. We're now going to really briefly look into Dan Harmon's story circle. Now, as I said, all these 3 different types of story structure are very similar. It's just where they put the detail. Dan Harmon's story circle is such a small one. I thought we can tag it onto the end of this video rather than making another one for you guys. So, it's very character driven. We have the comfort zone, which is the status quo. Want something, so your character has to want something that they can't get easily. 3, unfamiliar situation. Your character has to be taken out of their norm. So in Daughter of the Moon Goddess, they've grown up on the moon, they've always lived on the moon, and oh hey well that, they're now in the celestial kingdom, out of their comfort zone, and they need to be there to get their desire. Now 4, adaptation. Your character must begin to grow and change. To grow in the celestial kingdom, she has to learn to fight. She has to learn court procedures, etiquettes, the whole thing. Number 5, get what's wanted. The character has to achieve their goal. I mean, we all know as readers we're fairly disappointed if the character never achieves the goal. 7, pay a heavy price. It can't come easily. Your character must pay a price to get what they want. Number 7, return to the familiar. They return to the start of the book, but it's different. It's not the same. So Daughter of the Moon Goddess, she returns to the moon, but everything's different. She feels different. Her family feels different. The world feels different to what it was before. And finally, having changed. As I said in the last one, your character must have changed somehow. And that is, in essence, the Dan Harmon story circle. You can see when you look at the 3 different story structures there, they all really link together. They all have a desire that the person can't have. They all have a failure. They all have character growth, and they all have a climax and a resolution. Ultimately, it's up to you to mess with these structures how you want, but know that you do need these pinch points and the hit points in there. It's up to you how they work for your story, and as you write, you'll develop your own structure of these. You'll develop these to more to your liking. It also depends on what type of story you're writing for which one you use. As I said, the Dan Harmon story circle is very character driven, whereas the 3 plot structure is a bit more, I guess, action packed. They can all be related to each other. You can use them in all types of stories, but some work better for others. And that's it for this writing tips video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post my bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. If you guys have any further questions on story structure, please comment down below and I would love to try to answer them. If you have story structures that you've used that are different to these 3 that I have mentioned, please comment them down below. I'd love to look them up. There's no such thing as too much knowledge when it comes to writing, and story structures are a big deal. So let me know below if you guys have other structures you would recommend. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye.